Hi, my name is Jordan Iglesias, and this is going to be my video discussion for our second week. Firstly, I'll just answer the questions, and then I'll go into a little bit of like my own discussion. So the first question is about why we have this difficulty to say the proper names for anatomy. I think a lot of it is tied back to kind of the idea of if you talk about something, then it's going to happen. So like the big argument against sex education is that, well, if you talk about sex, then kids are going to start having sex. So it's kind of like, oh, well, if you start calling it penis and vagina, it's so real. But the derogatory names such as like pussy and dick aren't conducive to anything because not only are they derogatory, but they stem from negative terminology, which is not only makes women feel bad about themselves or maybe men feel bad about themselves, but it's not correct, and it's not uplifting, and it's not intellectual, and it's not beneficial for our youth. The first article and the NPR story tied together because in the end of the NPR story, they start talking about, how do we change the conversation? How do we talk about sexual assault? How do we talk about a good touch and a bad touch? And then in the article, they ask, how do we talk about terminology? How do we make anatomical and names correct? So kind of trying to figure out how to navigate discussion around these topics. So those are kind of how they're linked together. Though the topics aren't particularly the same as in, what we call our vaginas to sexual assault, it's important to try to navigate how we are going to have these conversations in the future. And then what can society do to change this? Will changing it stem any other societal issues? Why or why not? I think to change this, we really need to stop sexualizing our bodies and sexualizing our terminology. And we need to normalize the experience that sex is going to happen regardless of if we like it or not. The only thing that breaks more than condoms is abstinence pledges. So when we refuse to talk about sex, we lead to more issues. When we refuse to talk about our vagina as a vagina and we refuse to talk about it scientifically, we're turning it into this derogatory or taboo subject, which it isn't. As a society, to change this, we need education. We need real education, not abstinence-only sex education. We need sex education that is for all sexualities, that talks about the vagina, the penis, that talks about what's a good touch, what's a bad touch. Working at Planned Parenthood, we do this a lot, and we make it age-appropriate. Right? It's important to tell our children, you don't touch someone like this, you touch someone like this. And it goes both ways for men and women. It can't be sexist education. And I think that's the first step, and it needs to start at a young age. Sex is going to happen no matter what. We're filled with hormones, and we're going to have urges to have sex. But it's the education that's behind it that's going to tell what kind of sex we're going to have. And that's going to be safe sex, that's going to be legal sex, that's going to be consent, or it's not. So those are the barriers that we need to piece together.